Hey everyone, this is Dev with Crime Hive, and in this true crime video, I'm going to discuss my phone call to the hotel Barry Morphew stayed at. And we're going to talk about the strange facts regarding the smell of chlorine in his room. And this was from an account of Barry's coworker. So we're going to discuss that, and there's an article that describes this sequence of events on DailyMail, so we're going to talk about that. And before I do, again, this is Dev with Crime Hive. If you like these kind of true crime videos, just be sure to subscribe. And if you do, just hit that bell notification because that will give you updates on this case and other cases that I'm currently covering. So let's talk about Suzanne Morphew here and this new development. And this is really disturbing in a way, and I'll explain why. We've learned here from this Daily Mail article that, and it's titled, "Husband of Missing Colorado Mom Spent the Night Before Her Disappearance at Cheap Denver Hotel, leaving the room reeking of chlorine and littered with insurance letters and wet towels," co-worker claims. So what we've learned from this article was apparently a co-worker of Barry, his name is Jeff Puckett. He had taken over Barry's hotel room on May 10th, which was Mother's Day on a Sunday. And we're going to describe his account of that hotel room. Before I do, I just want to cover a couple things here. What we're talking about is Barry Morphew, apparently, from this information we've just learned, he has traveled from Salida to Broomfield, Colorado, which is just north of Denver, right? It's about 2 hours and 46 minutes roughly. And I wanted to show this map because there's just so much territory to be covered in this stretch. And we know that Suzanne's missing. And a couple things that we do know is Barry, according to him, he said that he had left Salida. His wife, Suzanne, was there at the house around 5 a.m. He says he had left and needed to go to this landscaping job. He apparently had to do this job on Mother's Day. And so he leaves. Now, what's interesting is a lot of people are wondering, okay, did Barry, when he left, did he stage the bicycle? We've heard about the bicycle, right? We still don't know if Suzanne ever rode a bicycle, but we do know that a bicycle was left that belonged to her. And a lot of people think it may be a diversion or just may be another way to throw investigators off the trail as to what really happened. Now, some people think that Barry may have taken this bicycle along his drive and placed it on the road, off the side of the road, right? To again, create this alibi for himself. Now, some people believe, now we know that investigators have had 2 search warrants on the property and on the Salida home, right? So we've seen photos of forensics taking evidence bags out of the house, 2 separate search warrants, and there is evidence. So if Suzanne were murdered, it's very possible that home could be a crime scene, right? But it also leaves to speculation there could be other crime scenes in other places involving this crime related to Suzanne, if Barry was in fact involved. We don't know, obviously. There's a lot of speculation, a lot of unanswered questions. But if he were driving along this route, so much room to be covered. And we're going to talk about a volunteer effort as well at the end. I'm going to give you guys that information as well. If you happen to be in this area or you'd like to travel that area, how you can be a part of a volunteer search to try to find and locate Suzanne. So anyway, I wanted to show that, man. And apparently Barry is staying at this hotel on May 9th, leading into May 10th. Now, we'd obviously love to get the information about this Holiday Inn, this Holiday Inn in Broomfield, to find out more details about when Barry checked in. We'd like to know dates and times exactly of when he checked in, if he did. And of course, there was surveillance video that we've learned, and I'm going to talk about that as well. And it describes it in that article. There was surveillance video, but I wanted to pull open this hotel and give you a couple bits of information. Well, I looked it up. There was a phone number here. I actually called the phone number, and I spoke to a front desk woman who gave me some information about this hotel. So I called her up, and I asked her, I said, is the pool open right now if I were to go there? And she said, yes, it's open. She said, that it's open to small groups and that they have this process of disinfecting every hour. They have a process in place to be really safe with keeping it clean. And so I asked, okay, and then I started asking, okay, what about around Mother's Day of this year? I know COVID was going on. Was it open around Mother's Day of this year? And she actually seemed like she was looking on her computer, or looked like she was looking into something, and she said yes, it was open around Mother's Day. She said it was still open. They still had policies in place to keep it clean and disinfect it, and but she did say that the pool was open during that time frame. So I just thought that was interesting during that phone call. Now, of course, I wasn't there physically. I didn't speak to multiple people there. I don't know for sure, but based on that conversation, it appears that the pool was open at that time. And the reason I mention that is because of the chlorine, right? People are wondering, how is this chlorine getting in the hotel? We know from the article that cleaning staff, they did not use chlorine to clean the room. So there's a lot of speculation that, well, maybe it came from the pool. Now, if it did, why did it come from the pool? Did Barry just happen to go on a just a late night swim or an afternoon swim, whatever the case, and go back up to his room? Well, the person, Jeff, the coworker, he went on to describe a few things here about the hotel room and the state of it that it was in. So he says, this is what he says. This was an exclusive interview from DailyMail, and he says, I got there Sunday night. That would have been May 10th. And the room smelled like chlorine real bad. He says it was his room, and he'd taken a shower. His towels were all over the floor. So he's seeing these wet floors all over. Immediately he's smelling chlorine. And then he says, let's see, we learned that the staff do not use chlorine. Now, we do learn that there was security footage, and it was handed over to police. So again, a lot of information they may have. They're just not telling us, right? They apparently have security footage that could tell us some really interesting bits of information. We could really learn if Barry went to this hotel, when he may have checked in, if he did, how long he was there, when he left the hotel, when his friend Jeff apparently showed up. A lot of information that could be gleaned from that. And so I think that's a really important piece of potential evidence. Now, other things that he said he found in this hotel room, though, he said, I found some mail in the hotel room. His mail was in there, and I gave it to the FBI. He says, I thought it was kind of odd to have it there. It was insurance. He said some of it was from an insurance company, like insuring your property, that kind of thing. And, the other thing that was strange, and I'll talk about that last bit in a minute, but I really want to talk about the bleach a little bit more, because if you're wondering, bleach is basically chlorine. I mean, it's basically the same smell. And I was doing some research here on sciencing.com. I was just looking at this article, and pool chlorine and household bleach both contain this hypochlorite ion, is what it is, which is the chemical agent responsible for the bleaching action. So what it goes on to say, though, is pool chlorine, however, is substantially stronger than household bleach. And I'll tell you why I'm mentioning this here. If you're looking at the concentration of the swimming pool chlorine, it's 65% strength, while household bleach is only about 5 to 6% strength of chlorine, right? So it's not as strong. Now, if Barry were to potentially get rid of some evidence or try to hide some sort of evidence of a crime, chlorine would be a lot stronger than just using your typical bleach. And we do know that bleach can kill off DNA. It can kill off a lot of evidence, and that's unfortunate. Some people know this. I don't know if he was smart enough to know this. I don't know if he had researched it. Again, if we were to look at his phone, his internet search history, was he searching for things like this? Those are things that we may know down the road. But if he's searching for bleach, chlorine, around this time frame of Suzanne missing, we're learning little bits here, little bits and pieces here. So what do you think of this information so far about the bleach or about the chlorine and this hotel room that apparently Barry was staying at when he said that he had left May 10th at about 5 a.m. from his property, yet there may be a record of him being at this hotel in Broomfield at that time. So may have a discrepancy in his story. Again, deception, more deception. And that's why when we keep seeing these articles and information that just little bits and pieces that come out, it just continues to be focused on Barry. It doesn't seem to lead us anywhere else. It doesn't seem to lead us to another potential suspect. It seems to stay with Barry. The spotlight seems to be with Barry. What are your thoughts on that aspect of it? Now, interestingly enough, too, if Barry were trying to cover up a crime, and again, we don't know, there's so much speculation, he could have committed a potential crime, a potential murder somewhere else, but he may have had evidence at this hotel room, and he may have been trying to get rid of some of that evidence or to clean up some of that evidence. And apparently the FBI may have collected this information. They got the mail. They may have collected the towels, the wet towels. And I would not be surprised if the forensics have already combed that area with a fine-tooth comb, because, when we're talking about a potential crime scene here around a time frame that someone's missing, that they're searching that place really well. And I bring up this photo of a drain because, even if Barry were very thorough and he was cleaning this up, there's so many cases where, forensics are lifting up tile blocks, or they're going into a drain and they're gathering evidence. They're finding blood evidence. They're finding hairs. And do we know if this is the case? No, but it's just something to think about as we've learned about this hotel room now that Barry has stayed at. And, and I bring up the bleach as well. I really am just focused on that because it's just such an alarm bell in my mind when I hear about this smell of chlorine, because it reminds me of another case. And I don't know if you guys remember this case. This guy right here, Travis Forbes, he was on his way to becoming a serial killer. And he had murdered a woman, almost killed this woman here. And I'll explain just a few things about it. I'm not going to get too deep into it, but this was around 2011 timeframe. It's in the Denver area and the Fort Collins area in Colorado as well. And that's why I thought of this case, because I remembered this case from articles and things like that in the past. But he loved bleach, apparently. And when he had killed his only victim, I guess I should say, killed this woman, he had cleaned up his white van with bleach. And investigators remembered opening his van, and it was that overwhelming smell of bleach. And it was a red flag for investigators. And then they connected that case to this woman who was sexually assaulted. She was attacked in her home. And then this guy here, Travis, literally doused her with bleach to try to get rid of evidence and then set her on fire. I mean, this was a vicious crime. She escaped. She was able to somehow escape out the window. I think she jumped out the window. She survived. I think she may have been in a coma. I'd have to look through the article and all that, but she was just on the cusp of dying, and she made it through. And so I just wanted to bring up that case with the bleach. And so that's why that stuck out so much, or with the chlorine. So anyway, I wanted to share the effort of trying to locate Suzanne. And what we've learned here, if you guys, I'm sure a lot of you are pretty familiar with Profiling Evil. They've been doing a really good job of covering cases and giving us information about some of these high profile cases. And what they've done is they've teamed up with Suzanne's brother, Andy Mormon, who apparently is trying to get a massive search party together. And they're trying to coordinate that right now. So he's teamed up with Profiling Evil. And I'll just leave this video with that information that you can go to their website. Looks like it's profilingevil.com/find Suzanne. And it looks like they're coordinating an effort to find Suzanne September 24th through the 29th in Salida. And they have this form you can even go and fill out. You can be a part of it. You just put in some information there, and then you can be a part of this search. So if you're interested in that, I just thought that was an interesting thing to share. I'm not in any way affiliated with Profiling Evil, but I think they're doing some great things out there. and they're truly trying to help the family. The family is obviously very devastated. They don't feel like they have the answers they want or need, and they are making an effort to try to locate Suzanne. So again, this is Dev with Crime Hive. I hope you found that information helpful in the Suzanne Morphew case, and I will be back with another video soon. You take care.